tell us, as a woman entrepreneur, what were some of the challenges you faced in your entrepreneurial journey and how'd you overcome them?
So I've thought about this question a lot, and honestly, I get asked this question a lot. Um, but I would say that an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur, it's gender agnostic in that sense because as a business person, you've got to have very similar set of skill sets.
Right.
You've got to be able to operate in uncertainty. You've got to be able to think big. You've got to be able to think creatively, and you've got to be able to hold teams together. And that doesn't depend on your gender.
Right.
But I think where this question becomes pertinent is in terms of what society you're operating in. Do you have the right sort of enabling environment around you, which is going to support you? And in my case, yes, that has definitely been the case. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and as I was getting into it, I was heavily pregnant at that time, actually. But to have a social setting where you're looked at first as a professional and as an individual and not as a would-be mother and how you're going to manage. I mean, I had my first client call one day after my daughter was born.
Wow.
So I think it's just what it takes to grow a business.
Right.
So in that sense, I think increasingly more and more women entrepreneurs have started really steering towards the fact that it is indeed gender agnostic and it needs to be gender agnostic. Where this becomes again quite pertinent is if you take external funding and you get VC and PE funding in. And yes, there are stereotypes there in terms of how much money is going into female-run businesses. Yeah. And that is also because most VCs and PE funds have men. And there are very few women in there. So you don't really see yourself reflected, on the other side of the table. It's a much larger systemic issue. And the good thing is that we are not looking at raising external funding. We are cash positive and we are, growing organically ourselves. So thankfully, that's not something I've had to deal with.